what have I learned about Alaska? Stick around and find out. So Two Bears, this is for you, because I know that you're thinking about moving to Valdez, and in case you're curious what it's like there in the spring, now's your chance to see it. If there's someplace else that somebody's curious about, particularly on the east side of Alaska, because that's where I live, let me know in the comments down below, and if I have it within my means to make it there, I'll definitely give it a shot. But this is definitely for anybody curious about what Valdez is all about in the springtime. Let's go on a road trip, shall we? Well, the sun is rising about 7 o'clock in the morning, I think, and then it's setting around 8:30 at night. And so we're at about 13 hours or so of daylight right now, and we haven't even hit April yet. And then the temperatures for me have been hovering around low 20s overnight and high 30s to low 40s during the daytime hours. But the sun being out, things are melting rather quickly. Can you see that right there? That is a beautiful view in my rear view mirror, out my side mirror, as I'm heading down to Valdez. That's beautiful. Be sure to hit that like button because it'll help other people see these videos too. And let's be honest, I do appreciate everybody that watches my videos. So the more that watch, the more I appreciate. One of the most amazing things that I have found in Alaska is the people. The people of Alaska are some of the friendliest people that you'll ever meet. Now, there are those individuals, and they're everywhere. This is not unique to Alaska, but there are those individuals that came here to disappear from society and want to be left alone. I can respect that because I too came to Alaska to be alone, hence the name of the channel. But the people that you will encounter for the most part in Alaska are some of the most sincere that I have come across. I am blessed to have had nothing but great experiences with the people so far in Alaska. They're very friendly, and the people of Alaska are very resilient. You have to be to live here because this state is extreme. The people here are strong in not only mind and body, but in spirit as well. They have a culture that is steeped in history, and they hold on to the traditions of their culture. Their kind-hearted nature, their sense of humor, and their sense of tradition and their values. And they don't want that to change. And I came here because I value that, because they want things to remain as is, and they're not looking to take on, these new concepts of what people deem to be reality these days. I stand behind that 100%. I'm all about it, hence why I'm here. Outside of that, one of the weirdest things that I've noticed about Alaska, and I'm only mentioning this because I'm driving now, rest stops in Alaska. So word to the wise, if you're coming to Alaska, whether you're planning on moving here or you're planning on just traveling through Alaska by vehicle, use the facilities in town before you head out, and don't necessarily load up on coffee before heading out, because you might find that you're having to use the side of the road. If you're traveling from Palmer to Glen Allen, there is a campground with a outhouse along the side of the Glen Highway, a few miles outside of Palmer, and then you're not going to hit another rest area for another 90 miles. And then outside of that, you're not going to hit one until you get to Glen Allen, essentially. I don't know if the gas station in Eureka has a restroom or not, but they are very far and few between, public restrooms and gas stations. So if you need a gas station, fill up while you're in town. Don't think that you're going to hit one on your way out of town, because you might be surprised to find out that despite the length of highway, there's no gas stations along these highways. There's no towns dotted along the highways. I mean, the towns are very far and few between as well. For example, I'm on my way to Valdez, and there's not a gas station between Glen Allen and Valdez, and that's 120 miles. So if you need a gas station, you're going to want to fill up in town. Now, granted, there might be a gas station on some of the off-beaten paths, but unless you want to traverse down a road that you're not familiar with and you don't know what's down there, I would suggest just filling up in town. While you're in town filling up on gas and using the facilities, there's one thing you can't do. One thing that you cannot do in Alaska, and that's buy a lotto ticket. You can't buy lotto games, lottery, Powerball. None of those are allowed in Alaska. Alaska does not allow gambling. And if you're traveling on the highway in some of the more rural communities, you also cannot find a liquor store, because there's a lot of communities in Alaska that are dry communities, because my assumption is that the native communities don't want that brought in. Use the facilities, but you might not be able to get the other things that you're looking for while you're in those facilities. And one of the other reasons why I suggest that you fill up while you're in a major town or one of the bigger towns is because as you get out to these rural communities, you're going to find that they have very leisurely hours of business, meaning that they're not necessarily open when you would expect them to be. For example, the banks in the rural communities are not open on the weekends. They're only open Mondays through Friday. Some other businesses are closed on Mondays. Businesses that you would expect to be open, such as the telecommunications company, is closed on Mondays. The utility company doesn't work, from my understanding, on Fridays. And so there's 4-day work weeks in the area. There's no weekend banking hours. And some of the gas stations that I've come across in these rural communities are also closed on Sundays. So if you're expecting to be able to go in and pay, because there's no pay at the pump, you have to go into the facilities to pay. If you're expecting to be able to do that, guess what? That's not happening on a Sunday. When you're driving along the highways in Alaska, in certain areas, more so on the Parks Highway, you're going to see this, is that there are signs that say Moose Crash Area. And what you're probably used to in the lower 48 is seeing a wildlife crossing sign, like an elk crossing or a deer crossing. But here, what you're going to see are these huge signs that say Moose Crash Area. And it's to indicate that in this area, there is prone to be a large number of moose that are hit by vehicles through a certain time of the year. But these signs definitely get your attention. And if ever you see a moose crossing the road or on the side of the road, that too will get your attention because of how big they are. Keep your eyes peeled because the moose come out of nowhere. There's so much vegetation along the sides of the highways in Alaska that the moose could be anywhere at any moment and come popping out. And they, at certain times of the day, because of the way the light hits the road, that you might not see those moose because they kind of blend in, believe it or not. Despite being very big, the light makes it difficult to see them. I just passed a vehicle that had hit a moose. I apologize that the lighting in here is really, really bad. I can't do anything about that. But that's one of the other things I've seen is that when a vehicle becomes involved in a collision, it'll sit on the side of the highway for an extended period of time. Last year when I arrived here, there were 3 vehicles that were along the Glen Highway that looked like they had been there all summer long. And they were there for the basically 2 months that I was driving back and forth along the Glen Highway collecting supplies. And this vehicle that I just saw in the ditch, it looked like it had been there for a while, but will probably be there for a couple of months at minimum. So that's one thing to keep in mind too, is like if you wreck your vehicle in these rural areas, your vehicle is not going anywhere. It's going to be there for a while. While you're watching for moose on the highway in Alaska, there is one other animal that you really should watch out for that you might not be expecting to find, and that is bison. We have woods bison in Alaska. I don't think they're native to Alaska. I think they were imported into the state, but they do exist, and they're bigger than your plains bison that are in the lower 48. And I believe that they're predominantly on the eastern side of Alaska. So while you're, traveling down the highway, don't be surprised if you see a buffalo come out of the woods and cross the highway. I cannot believe how much snow there is here. Like, it is up over some of these buildings. There are just mountains and mountains of snow. Like, this is a lot of snow. This is probably the most amount of snow that I have seen. Be sure to hit that like button because it'll help other people see these videos too. I hope you've enjoyed this video, as well as my rambling. And I hope to hear some rambling from you down in the comments below. Please be sure to join me next week. And in the meantime, check out these videos and I'll see you again next time. While you're watching out for moose on the highway, there is one more animal that you should watch out for on the highway in Alaska, and that is moose. No. What did I learn? All right, so, oh no. Oh. Goodness. Some of you are probably old enough. Some of you are probably old enough to remember Dorf on Golf. Well, this is Dorf's sister, Dork, on Alaska. Oh my goodness. And thanks for joining me today. Yep, today we're talking about Alaska. That's right, folks. Oh my goodness. All right, let me regain my composure here. Oh, maybe I can get out of this. I know I should have on my snowshoes. Oh, goodness. Oh, that's deep. Whew.